Here's a simple telltale sign of how to spot a narcissist. This is easy. I already talked about how narcissists target mental health pages. Again, you could be a licensed psychologist, you could be a professor teaching or doctor teaching psychology. You could just be somebody who's a survivor of any form of narcissistic abuse. And while you're talking about your experiences and trying to teach others how to survive, you could just be a mental health influencer that's a current psychology student, or you could just be recovering from, therapy due to forms of domestic or any other narcissistic abuse. A narcissist is always going to react and respond negatively. Some of them may try to say things like, oh, it burns me up because you think it's all of us, when you never said it was all people. For example, if it's a narcissistic abusive man, you as a man or woman mental health influencer never once came out of your mouth. And I'm going to speak for women because narcissistic men usually don't bother male mental health influencers as much. They usually back off the men and call them simps and remove themselves because they're cowardly towards men. But a woman, they will go backwards and forth with all day. So that's another sign, being a woman, the misogyny, and them going backwards and forth as if they're a woman with you. But the biggest telltale sign of any narcissist, no matter what your gender is, when you're speaking of mental health, is their response. Them getting angry, them trying to place you as the bad guy. For example, I'll use a few months ago when I talked about how controlling and abusive men have a problem with, say if their girlfriend takes a picture. She could literally just be taking a picture of her hair. It could literally be nothing else showing. She could have on a turtleneck sweater with her new hairstyle, and they will then make her the target of their abuse, whether it be physical, mental, or verbal, because she took a picture of her hairstyle. If she's got a new dress, they will make it as if she's a problem because she took a picture of her new dress. So, now, what does what I said with the example have to do with anything? Remember, I mentioned a few months ago, again, I talked about how, controlling narcissistic men have a problem with you to say if you take a new picture, it could just be your hairstyle. It could just be a full length dress. You could be going to church if you're a church lady. You could have on a full bodied suit, covered up, going to work. And they will make it seem as if you're an attention whore just for taking a picture. That's not love. That's control and abuse. Now, where does the narcissist come in this scenario when I'm talking about what happened a few months ago? This narcissist actually made multiple pages, stalked me. I blocked him, and I'm pretty sure he still stalks me because I get weird messages. But that's not the point. He got so angry because, again, being a psychology student, I'm able to see through certain things. Just going through therapy, I learned a lot prior to that. These type of people, when you call them out, they try to attack you. They try to smear campaign. That right there, the smear campaigning, the fact that he even had to lie and make up a story. He said that my followers were bullying him. Nobody said anything to him. Nobody cared. I instructed my followers to not say nothing to him. At most, I said, hey, report the post where he lied on me. And that's it, because that's doxing. Taking videos and stuff like that and spreading lies, rather, even taking real information on the person, that's doxing. So, whatever the case is, he told people that I didn't make money on TikTok, which I proved wasn't true. You can't just come on here. And all this was to grow his page. But either way it goes, he was a narcissist. He didn't like he didn't like that I called things out. And again, I didn't know this person. This person came out and attacked my character when I was making a general statement about predators in a form of abuse and control. Again, a narcissist is always going to open their big mouth and tell you who they are when they get offended by things that have nothing to do with them. You know, especially if you don't know them. You know, you could be talking about domestic abuse, and these type of people will come out and say, well, maybe you did something, when just because you're a mental health page does not mean you're identifying you. Okay? Does not mean you're identifying you. It could be other situations you've learned from studying with other people. It could be things you learned with learning and going to therapy in general. But they're always going to attack you. They're going to assume general statements of education are you or pertain to you. And usually it's because they've been watching you. And trust me, you'll know they're going to say things. You know, people like that, these people like this, you know, so if you ever go down my page and scroll down and see all the quotes where I called out their behaviors depending on what they were saying to me, you know, it always led back around to them using, you're obsessed with me. No, you're on my page harassing me because I called out your behavior. You don't like accountability, so now you have to make an excuse, 1,000 excuses, and now you have to try to play the grandiose and superior role because I called you out. You know, other people say don't call a narcissist out, but I'm okay with unmasking a narcissist. I'm not afraid of them. There's nothing they could do to me but try to spread lies and say things, you know, that aren't true and make a fool of themselves in the process. Rule number 1, if a person has to say you're bullying me after they came to your page and said something rude to you, especially if it was disgusting, attacking your character or demeaning, any form of doxing and lying, trying to destroy your character, that just shows that they've made a fool of themselves. So I'm okay with it, because at the end of the day, you're making a fool of yourself. And if anyone believes you, they're the same type of person you are. They're just as stupid, and they're a predator too. Only a predator condones those type of behaviors. And trust me, these people who do this stuff online, it's not trolling. These are the same men that will beat the snot out of somebody's sister, mom, aunt, cousin, you know, best female friend, mom. They will beat these women, any woman, because on the inside they're fucking femboy. Okay? Real men don't fight and argue with women like that. Seriously. Now, and that's not to say all gay men are like that either, but I'm sorry. These down low tendency men that have masculinity problems are definitely exactly like this. But that's a whole nother topic. The whole point is, narcissistic men that are abusers and predators will always respond when no one's directly called them out, especially if you don't know them. And that's how you identify them. It'll always circle back to them being a victim, or they'll try to play as if you're obsessed with them when they've 9 times out of 10 done something to get a response and they don't like the response in the end.